Welcome back to another week of Instigating with Clarkey and Drury, brought to you by our friends at Larry Hudson Chevrolet Buick GMC here on 1000 Wallace Avenue in Listowel. And of course, our friends at Listowel Squash Courts, Ryan Drury, Chris Clark. And after a historic week of golf in this country, our friend Ian Doig back on the program. Doigie, my goodness, what a scene at Oakdale Golf and Country Club. A 70-foot putt, 69 years in the making. Nick Taylor is the RBC Canadian Open champion for the first time since Pat Fletcher back in 1954 out in Vancouver. I mean, incredible just in general, Doigie, that we got to see a Canadian win. But then the way in which he did it makes it even more special as we watch the putt now. What was your reaction to this?
You know what? I screamed at the top of my lungs. I'm so very happy for Nick. He's a wonderful young man. We have a bit of a connection. But yeah, to have a Canadian finally win after all these years, I mean, it really is historic. And you think about it, Pat Fletcher won in 1954, and it launched a company called Fletcher Golf that's still in existence today and running. And so there's no telling what this is going to do for Nick Taylor in his future. Like, absolutely crazy. And he's now an icon in this country. I mean, it's wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. I couldn't be happier for him either. It's absolutely mind-blowing the way it all happened. And I do, thinking back to watching it on TV with Kathleen on Sunday, there was one thing that stuck out in my mind, and I brought this up at the time. It was on the 12th hole. He went for the green and two with kind of that hybrid out of the right rough, and it barely cleared the bunker, the cross bunker, and was running up the fairway. And it had enough speed on it that it was going to run over the green and into the long rough over the back. And it hit a sprinkler head and popped up in the air, and then ran forward, hit another sprinkler head and popped up in the air, and then ran forward and ran up to about 15 feet from the hole, and he two-putted for birdie. And I turned to Kathleen at the time and I said, Nick's going to win today. And she kind of looked at me puzzled, and I said, those types of things, that's what happens when you win. If he wasn't going to win, that ball would have missed those two sprinkler heads and ran all the way over to the back of the green into the long grass, and he wouldn't have got it up and down and made birdie. Simple as that. I knew he was going to win right then and there. It's just the karma of golf, in my opinion. It was awesome.
It's incredible. It was awesome. I did the same. I was screaming in the apartment. I couldn't believe it. I mean, when it went to the playoff, you're like, okay, now it's anybody's game here. And Fleetwood, to his credit, who's a great player and he'll bounce back. Like he missed a couple of sitters that you thought, okay, this is over. And it wasn't. And then to nail a 70-footer, it's just unbelievable. And then, Clarkey, I know you saw it too. What was your reaction to the football tackle that occurred right after, when his buddy Adam Hadwin ran out onto the green with a bottle of champagne? I mean, iconic enough that Nick Taylor drains that 70-footer. This moment will forever be attached to it. And when they put this on a stamp someday, I want a freeze frame of this right here. The two of them on there, and Adam Hadwin just getting Lawrence Taylor to the ground by the security guard. What did you think of that, Doigie?
I mean, honestly, you can't make that stuff up, can you? Right? Now, that said, a friend of mine who I spent some time with yesterday, who is a RCMP officer, he kind of looked at me and he said, the problem was, if the guy doesn't do anything and it turns out that Adam Hadwin is a bad person, then he's in trouble. So he goes ahead and he does the tackle to protect Nick Taylor, but it turns out that it's Adam Hadwin. So now he's in trouble for doing that. So he said the security guy was in a no-win situation, because if he doesn't do the tackle and something does happen to Nick, then it's a bad situation, right? So I just think it's hilarious. I think it is absolutely, and the fact that Adam's wife was tweeting out afterwards, and then they took the picture on the plane. He's still alive and stuff. I mean, absolutely, have some fun with it. Enjoy what has happened after 69 long years of us wanting to have a Canadian win the tournament. You know what? Just really enjoy it. Look, I was fortunate enough to play in a few Canadian Opens, and it was always my dream to win one. And I just wasn't good enough and never got there. But for Nick to win it, Nick and I have a bit of a connection. Maybe during break or something I can grab it. But 11 years ago, I was very fortunate enough to beat Nick Taylor in a playoff to win the World Par 3 Championship. And so we have it. Yeah, pretty cool. And I've got the trophy out here, which is a plate, and very, very cool for me, right? Because not long after that victory that I had over Nick, he went on to win his first event on the PGA Tour, and here we are, 11 years later. He's got 3 wins, one of them being the Canadian Open. To me, it's just awesome.
It's incredible theater, and the tackle obviously will be part of it now forever. And I agree. The security guard actually, I think, did some great security work because, you can't just let anybody run out. And on the other side of the coin, he just did, the junior football wrap tackle around the hip. He didn't crush him up high. He went for the little wrap and roll, and everybody's fine. And Adam Hadwin's a good Canadian boy, and he laughed it off like we do here. If this was an American, somebody'd be getting sued, and he just laughed it off. And an incredible moment, and really great too, guys. To see the support from the other guys out there, Corey, Mike Weir, Hadwin, obviously all the guys, Pendrith, everybody there, like watching, like biting their nails along with us along the rough there. Yeah, like watching it and mobbing him afterward. And I'm sure it's really cool, for Nick Taylor to have a guy like Mike Weir that for modern golf, sparked a lot of Canadians' passion for golf, running out there to congratulate him.
Well, you think about it, honestly, 20 years ago that Mike won the Masters.
That's right.
Nick Taylor would have been 12 years old. Right. Yep. So as a 12-year-old, you're watching that. That's what inspired Adam Hadwin and Nick Taylor and Pendrith and all these guys that are in their late 20s, early 30s. It was Mike Weir winning the Masters. And then all of a sudden you're winning the Canadian Open, and your person that inspired you to be the player that you are is standing there on the 18th green waiting for you to hug you when you win. Absolutely incredible. I mean, I think, as I watched the tournament the other day, and every time he walked up on a tee or towards a green, they gave him a standing ovation, and they were singing "Oh Canada" and all of that stuff. None of that ever happened to me. But when I walked up in my first Open at Glen Abbey, and I came up to the 18th green on Thursday, and I was playing fairly well, the chills that went up my back that day, I felt them again this weekend when Nick was winning. So I can't imagine what he was feeling while all that was going on and they were singing "Old Canada." To keep as composed as he did and as focused as he did, and to be able to be that calm and hit the golf shots that he did when he had to, is incredible in my opinion. Awesome. Yeah. Just awesome. That's all I can say.
Really unbelievable stuff. All right. You know what else is awesome? Our picks. Now,
can I just interrupt?
Please.
You know what? I have a funny feeling that this is going to change the rules.
I just messaged Adam, and it might even come up on the screen. How far are we in? I haven't said a word yet. Like, this is Clarkey and Drury, and people on the radio are probably thinking, Clarkey must be off this week. What's going on? They're shutting him out. There's a reason you're shutting me out, and I get it. I picked Team Canada in the pool. I had Nick Taylor. I should have won if Doig didn't pick Adam Hadwin, because he was my obvious last pick. And Doig's like, Adam Hadwin. And you guys were all over me. They're stupid picks. They're bad picks. They haven't won in 60-something. No, that's exactly what you said.
We didn't say stupid. I just said I wouldn't have done that.
No, but you said they're terrible picks, quote unquote. Terrible picks.
Okay.
No, you did.
Maybe you did. I might have said that. I didn't like I had your Nick approach.
Taylor. But let's show them.
Now let me ask you. Let me ask you. Did you win?
Well, as I said, I would have if it wasn't for Doig.
Well, what does that mean? I would have if it wasn't for Doig.
Because you knew darn well what I was doing. You knew who my last pick was, and you.
Well, it's not illegal to make a pick.
Yeah. I think Adam Hadwin's been playing very good golf of late, and I think that was a pretty awesome pick on my part. right? And Eric Cole wasn't a bad pick either for him to shoot. What did he shoot the last day? 63 to jump up that leaderboard. So that was kind of fun, and I only needed 3 of my guys to make the cut, right? To win the pool. So that was kind of exciting.
I know.
Clarkey texted me yesterday, or maybe even said it to me in person, actually, while we were playing golf. But he mentioned that he thinks that the rules should be changed, and if you pick the winner, you should get extra points now.
You should, right? And I've declared myself the winner, because if you pick the winner, you deserve to get some bonus points. Adam, have we showed the results?
And
so there's the results.
Where have we heard that before? If you pick the winner, you should get.
Yeah, we're not going to do that. We're going to stick with the system we have and look at the parity we're experiencing here, right? Clarkey, you won 2 events
10
ago.
Extra minus.
I
points.
won the last
I'm at
one. Chuggy won a couple weeks ago, and now Ian's won here. This is parity. This is a Gary Bettman system. We like this.
Gary Bettman would be loving this, wouldn't he?
Yeah, we like this a lot. Doigy wins. Congratulations.
Congratulations, Doigy. Now let's talk about other things we've been.
I will humbly accept those congratulations on my victory.
Okay. Speaking of victories, Doigy, I know you were a little late getting on here today because you were at the golf course, right?
Yeah, I apologize.
And after your round yesterday, I mean, I would imagine you were at the golf course, because let's talk about the round we had just quickly, Ryan. Ian.
Okay. Yeah.
How did I play yesterday?
I have to tell you, Ryan, I was very impressed with how he played yesterday.
Okay. Very impressed.
It was good. It was good. So with 8 holes left, I suggest he says to me, give me a stroke a hole and we'll have a bet. And I said, yeah, well, I'll accept that. I'll give you a stroke.
Yeah, no problem. He kind of laughed.
Kind of laughed. And our bet was we were going to Dairy Queen.
Yeah, so winner was picking up Dairy Queen.
Clearly, ice cream is what motivates this man, because he proceeded to go like par, bogey, par, right? And it was.
I won every hole.
I've never, not at quite every hole, but I've never seen him play quite that good. It was impressive. He focused in and he shot 41 on the back 9.
Yep. Clarkey, I'm very impressed by that. Yep. Now I have to know, and I'm sure that this is the burning question that all of the viewers and listeners want to know as well, having heard what our good buddy Doigy just said. What treat at Dairy Queen motivated
the most expensive one?
What'd you get, a blizzard cake? Like
no, not a cake. I got a banana split. We both had banana splits.
Yes.
Wow. Okay. Yep. So.
But I was on fire. But I was controlling my shots. I was playing some hooks.
Clarkey, then right, you're in some trouble now, right? Because if your daughters or your significant other are listening to this, right? So now they know that if they just keep a banana split nearby, you are a hostage to their whims. Right. Are you not?
You yeah, no, pretty much.
Very
Who
much.
Doesn't like ice cream.
You know what though, Ryan? Hey. You know what my take on it all is this, Ryan? He has a really good coach.
Yes.
Right?
No question about it.
He's got a really good coach that is teaching him how to play better. You got to love it, don't you?
No question about it. Ian Doig Golf Academy is where to go. There's no question in my mind, because not only is he like fixing my stroke, he's helping me relearn what shots I should make where. Like, why'd you hit that shot? He didn't say that at all yesterday. Like, for the most part, I picked the right club and made the right swing. And as we were pressing down the stretch, I pulled out the old 3-wood and did a little 1-footer from the fringe onto the green. And then he said, he had a comment about it.
He did. He looked like an old cagey veteran with some of the shots that he was playing. I was very, very impressed.
We had about a half hour. No. We had about a half hour rain delay, and I was worried because I was on fire. And but we got out, and boy, the conditions were like, it must have dropped 10 degrees, and we were frozen, like literally frozen. My hands were freezing, and the ball wasn't flying at all. But I still won.
And you battled through,
Clarkey. It took me the whole drive home with my heat blaring and the heated seats on in my truck for me to finally warm up.
Well, you
how
had ice
cold
cream
it
in your
was.
system too. That didn't help.
Also,
Yeah.
We
the
were
ice
we were
cream-
eating the ice cream in Dairy Queen, and Doigie's literally shivering, like literally still shivering from being out in the golf course. He was like,
Yeah,
That's
and then
fantastic.
I got up this morning and was teaching on. I was on the lesson tee at 7:30 this morning, and it was like 9 degrees out, and the wind was blowing. And then we got rained on in the morning here, and I got wet and cold again.
oh no,
So yeah,
Didn't
not a
rain
lot
here
of fun,
today.
but here we are.
didn't rain here today. Anyway,
There
a
you
long day
go.
for me. I
Ian
was at the
Doig
golf
Golf
course at-
Academy.
I was at the golf course
Please,
this morning at 7:30, and I just pulled back in the house tonight at 8:45. So yeah,
and Doigie will be in Listowel next week for the
Hard-working
senior
guy.
CPGA. Is that what it is? Senior CPGA.
Ontario PGA Championship
Ontario.
senior for
there's
Ontario.
too many
And
titles.
Like
we'll be
tea-
there watching.
What time's your tea time?
I tee off on Monday at 12:40.
Hmm.
And I'm playing with John Cochran from the Niagara region and Hall of Fame, Ontario Hall of Fame member Gar Hamilton.
Love it.
An icon in the golf industry. Yeah.
And what are the odds? Are you near the top? Are you like,
You know what? It's a very small field. You
better
know
not
what?
say it. Better not say it. We'll.
Yeah, I just, you know what? I'm
You
going
don't
to
wanna motivate anybody.
play my best and see what
Yeah.
I can do. You know, I haven't played in tournaments in a while, and you know, I like the golf course. I think you know, for a little town in southwestern Ontario to have the golf course that they have, it's a very fun golf course to play. I like the holes. There's a couple greens that are a little severe, maybe, but a very fun golf course to play, and it's in good condition. And you know what? After playing it, first time I played the original 18 holes, probably since about 1978 when I played the high school championship there. But I understand now why Corey Connors hits a little soft draw off the tee all the time, because it's very much needed on that golf course.
Absolutely.
makes sense,
It helped
right?
him out. It helped
Okay,
him out, right?
Let's get into the U.S. Open picks here.
Yes, let's do that. We gotta do some picks here, and then we're gonna chat with our buddy Akil Augustine from NBA TV Canada. Now, obviously,
You're first, Ryan.
I'm
You
first.
lost.
Oh, right, yeah, because I finished last. Yeah,
Yeah.
I guess
I'm
I
second,
do get
Doigie's
to go
third.
first.
Doigie's doing some last minute homework.
US Open.
Because you know what? I don't even know who's playing this week.
Well,
I've been
get
so
the odds up
unragged.
and let's go.
All the regulars. US Open down in LA at a course that they've never hosted at before, with the Playboy Mansion is overlooking the 14th hole. So I don't know if there's going to be like some bad behavior going on during this golf. I mean, some people might be looking forward to trunk slamming, if you know what I mean. All right. In all seriousness, let's not waste any time here.
Yeah, you go.
US Open. I have the first pick. And yeah, I'm going to be the lame guy. I'm going to take the guy who's favorited to win. I can't not. I have to take Scotty Scheffler.
Yeah,
I have to. Mr. Clark.
Yes. Okay. I'm going to pick. Let's see here. Yeah, John Rahm. Let's go with Johnny.
Well, we knew that was going to happen.
He's
And I'm going to go way. I'm going to go way off the books here and pick Brooks Koepka.
Yeah,
way
right
off the
books. The third pick overall. Yeah.
way off the Brooks.
That's too
Good
funny.
one.
And now back to back for you,
And back
Doigie.
to back, I'm going to come back with this Rory McIlroy kid.
Yeah, I've heard he's not bad.
Yeah.
Okay,
I hear he might be ready to break through again.
He may well
Okay.
be.
Well, the
Koepka,
four top
McIlroy,
odds, the four top guys in the odds are taken.
they're gone.
So I'm going to go off
Not
the
quite.
board.
Not quite.
Well,
Victor Hovland's still there.
well, my
Don't
chart.
give him ideas here.
My chart is fifth. But anyway, I'm going to go with Patrick Cantlay.
Oh, Patrick Cantlay, the timekeeper himself. Will we catch him at the Playboy Mansion? Who knows? Who knows? All right, back to back for me. I'm not even going to waste any time here. I love the way this guy's been playing golf. He's been playing really, really well. I think it's almost his time to break through. I love Max Homa. I think that this golf course suits his game really well. And I'm going to take the aforementioned Victor Hovland, one of my favorites.
So you got Max Homa and Victor Hovland there, huh?
Okay.
Yes, Mr.
Okay.
Clark, your third pick.
Yeah, I'm going with DJ.
Got it. Yes,
Johnson.
Mr.
Dustin
Gretzky.
Johnson.
Mr.
Yes.
Gretzky.
Yes.
Doigie 2 to finish.
I'm going to go with. Wow, this gets tough here, right? Doesn't it?
No, there's a lot of good golfers left.
There is. That's the problem.
Yeah, Nick Taylor's available.
I'm going to go with Tommy Fleetwood.
Nice. Like that.
And Justin Rose.
He took the guy I was going to take. I like that. I like that a lot. I was going to take
had a
Rosie.
nice little tournament here in Canada, didn't he?
Yes, he sure did. Likeable guy, too. Mr. Clark, your final pick before I round it out.
As you guys know, I always have to take a Canadian, and the guy who won this week will not win this week, so I'm picking Corey Connors.
There you go.
Okay, so Clark, I have a question for you.
Hold on. Ryan's got one last pick, Doigie.
I'll wrap it up quickly. I just like this guy. He plays really well of late on big stages, and he's arguably the most likable guy on tour. And I love the guy, Tony Finau.
Can't see him winning.
I love it.
I don't know. I like him. I can't see him winning. But anyway,
I like him a lot.
I probably just jinxed
my
it,
fourth
so now he'll
pick.
probably win. Doigie, what was your question before we let you go?
Have we ever done this where you haven't picked Corey? I mean, I know your neighbors and everything in Listowel, but
yeah,
honestly, I think you've got a man crush on him.
Yeah,
I've picked Corey before. I think I had Corey for our Masters pool, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Anyway,
how can you not love Mr. Listowel? He's the toast of the town, and he deserves to be.
And 100%, right? And a good guy, and obviously a very good player. And so, I love the fact that we support him, and I'm a big fan. I'm a big fan of all the Canadian guys right now, right?
Of course.
I was a bigger fan last week, but that's besides the point.
Yeah, I'm sure you were.
You guys made fun
almost
of me.
worked out for you.
I told you this was going to be the year, and next year the Leafs are going to be the guys. There you go.
Well, now I'm almost inclined to believe you because you did say you did say, and we doubted, didn't we? Thank you for the 70-footer, Nick. And thank you, Doigie, for jumping on and wrapping that up with us and making some U.S. Open picks. We always appreciate you, buddy.
Right. Will you allow me one little thing? I got to run from the screen.
Please get that trophy.
Quick. Yep, you got 5 seconds.
The trophy. The World Par 3 Championship.
I've seen it. It's in his basement. It's up on the mantle. I've seen it. It's very impressive.
As it well should be, of course.
Yeah, it's very impressive.
And our RBC Canadian champion, Nick Taylor, fell in a playoff to our friend Ian Doig, and here is the trophy. Oh, look at that.
So right down here at the bottom, it says World Par 3 champion.
World Par 3 champion. There you go.
There it is.
All right, Doigie.
Nick Taylor, right there.
See you Sunday.
See you guys.
That set Nick off to bigger and brighter things, didn't it?
Absolutely, it did.
You inspired him, Doigie, and you inspire us as well. Thanks for doing this, my friend.
Thanks as always, guys. Looking forward to the next time.
All right, we'll take a quick break. When we come back, our friend Akil Augustine from NBA TV Canada next here on Instigating. Welcome back to Instigating with Clarkey and Drury, brought to you by Larry Hudson's Listowel Chevrolet Buick GMC here in Listowel and the Listowel Squash Courts. Ryan, Drury, Chris Clark, thanks to our buddy Ian Doig of the Ian Doig Golf Academy for wrapping up what was an incredible RBC Canadian Open. And now we're joined by one of our friends on the show, Akil Augustine of NBA TV Canada, to wrap up what was an incredible NBA season. Mr. Augustine, welcome back to the program. How are you, my friend?
What up? I'm good, man. Thanks for having me. What up, Clarkey?
Hey, everything's up. Things are good. The seasons are over. NBA season's over. NHL season's over. Were you surprised the Nuggets came through and won this thing?
Surprised? I wouldn't say surprised. Disappointed, yes, because I was actively cheering against them. So
why?
That. Why?
Yeah.
I'm not a Nuggets fan. I don't like the Nuggets. I
You
don't
like
cheer
Kyle
for the
Lowry.
Nuggets.
You and him were buds, probably, right?
No, actually, me and Kyle weren't buds. Kyle
Oh,
and I
no?
didn't have the best relationship, but
Oh, really?
thankful for the championship. I'm a
Okay.
Lakers fan. I've always
I
been a
know you
Lakers fan.
are. I know you are.
So
There you go. Okay.
I thought they had a shot. I thought they had a chance. AD disappointed me as always. His name should be AD for always disappointing. So I don't know. I was super heartbroken by the fact that they were, embarrassed the way they were in the Western Conference Championships.
Well, that's a softer nickname than what Sir Charles typically calls him.
Yes.
Our old friend Street Clothes. He was hung out to dry a little bit in that disappointing loss. And I want to touch on your Lakers because there's rumors flying around them. But first, let's talk a little bit about what's going on here in Raptors land before we dissect what was an incredible run by Denver, by all accounts. Obviously, we've got a new head coach in Raptor land. It's incredible that the Serbians, they're taking over the NBA headlines up here, aren't they?
Yeah, Darko Rajakovic. Listen, I had a chance to chat with Darko, talk, pick his brain, and I fell in love. I'll be honest with you. Not a guy I knew a lot about going into the process, but he's got a pedigree. He's been around some great players. His coach was Scott Brooks out there in OKC, so he rubbed shoulders with Russ Westbrook and KD. He was in Memphis, although Memphis had an interesting year. You got to think about the style of basketball that Memphis plays and how they allowed their young players to blossom. And I think that's something we want to have here, especially with Scotty Barnes and Precious Achiuwa and some of the young talent we have in the fold. And, people are still trying to wait for this offseason to see exactly what direction the organization goes. But if this is the first domino to hit, you can expect we're going to have a more vibrant play style. Defense is obviously a major issue with this team and the style of defense too. But I think he's a player-friendly coach in the sense that that if you use Memphis as an example, it's a bunch of young guys that liked playing the way they played. And if you're going to, try to court young players, bring in guys, bring in talent, you want them to enjoy how you play the game. You want to play an upbeat style, a lively style. And he was a big part of what Memphis did. So, I think the Raptors got a good one.
What happened to Nick Nurse? Like guy won a championship not long ago. Like, did he get stupid in the last few years? Like, I know it's the easy thing to do sometimes is to change a coach, but did you see it coming?
Yeah, the writing was on the wall. I think the key was, listen, you can go back to the Tampa year, and we started to hear rumblings that Pascal Siakam wasn't happy with being called out in the public. And then you saw, there were instances with things being aired out in the media that you normally thought would have been kept in-house with Gary Trent and other players. And so you kind of thought that Toronto always had a great reputation as a great culture team. I think Dwayne Casey set up an amazing culture, starting with that Pound the Rock movement, and they developed their players internally. And Nick did a great job putting that cherry on the top of the championship in 2019. But they kind of had to rebuild from there because with Kawhi leaving, you didn't have that same roster that was capable of taking you to the hilltop. So you had to rebuild some guys' games and adjust in certain places. And it seemed like he wasn't able to get the most out of the roster that was put together. And then towards the end of last season, you saw a lot of communication was happening in public that should have been happening in private. The press conferences became a lot more interesting. And that's never a good thing for any team. You know that. You don't want things to be, fleshed out with the media that weren't fleshed out internally. And then, Masai said it. The culture wasn't the culture that the Raptors wanted. It wasn't somewhere where guys were excited to come into work every day. These are direct quotes from the president of the organization. And if he sees it, he's obviously talking to the players in the post-season interviews. And so I think those are the indictments against Nick Nurse that kind of cost him his position.
How good can Pascal be?
Wow. How good can he be?
Yeah.
I think
like we've been waiting, right?
Listen, Pascal at points this year was, he's an all-star caliber player. At points, he looked amazing and unstoppable. I think one of the questions that the organization has is how good other players can be with Pascal, taking the types of shots and controlling the types of possessions that he needs to in order to be the best version of Pascal. right? And I also think he's on a different timeline than some of the other players. You think about Fred VanVleet, you think about Pascal Siakam, they're at their peak points in their career. And so you're saying you want to, like, if you look back at that championship team, you had Kawhi peaking, you had Marc Gasol, maybe a little bit past his prime, but Serge, obviously, right a little bit past the cusp. But guys, their timelines were in sync. Fred blossoming, Kyle peaking, Pascal blossoming. And I think there's a little bit of discordance in where guys are at on the Raptors squad. Scotty's obviously going to be a huge part of what the Raptors do in the future, but is his timeline and Pascal's timeline in sync? Are they going to be able to peak at the right time together? And is this entire roster going to be able to peak at the right time together? And I think that's going to be the big conversation starter is how do you maximize the full roster and not just one guy or two guys?
And who's going to be in the backcourt this year? What's going on there? Is that what it's called, the backcourt? Did I get that right? With Fred going?
Points for Clarkey. That's the big one, right? Because I think that's the next big domino to fall is, does Fred VanVleet go out there and sign with another team like, the much rumored Orlando or lately Los Angeles, who knows? But I think if they do, if he does, you're hoping that the Raptors, a lot of teams that you've seen in the past, do a sign and trade and get an asset like maybe a draft pick that can turn into that point guard, or maybe a young point guard that hasn't established himself. So again, we don't know who's going to be in that backcourt. For myself, I'm hoping and praying Fred stays. I'm a huge believer in Fred. I think that there aren't a lot of guys like that. There aren't a lot of point guards that can do what he does. And he's a great character guy and a great locker room guy and a great leader. And I don't think you can easily replicate that. But, if it's time to move on, if he's going to force his hand and get a big check, then it's time for someone young maybe to come in and take the helm.
Ryan, before you go,
please.
I remember back watching Kyle Lowry, and I was sitting beside you in Halifax. Remember that exhibition game they played in Halifax?
Yep.
And Kyle Lowry, was it Nick Nurse? No, it wasn't Nick. Who was the coach then?
It was Dwayne.
It was Dwayne. Dwayne's talking to the team, addressing the team, and Kyle's not paying any attention to what the coach was saying. And I was like, we were literally, Ryan, like 10 feet away. Like we were right beside the bench. And was that just the kind of guy Kyle was? Like,
well, I mean, you think about the relationship that Kyle had with the organization. He knew when they wanted to trade him. He knew he wasn't their first pick. He knew that they wanted Steve Nash. He knew they tried to ship him to New York. He never thought he was going to last in Toronto. And Kyle's a guy who plays the chip on his shoulder. He wears his heart on his sleeve, and he lets you know where you stand with him. So I think that was that time period for Kyle. And I think the buy-in came later. The buy-in came, with that Rudy Gay trade and a little bit of success trickling. And as he built his relationship with DeMar, and as Dwayne Casey sold him on what they were trying to develop and build, and as Masai had more conversations with him, the buy-in came later. But Kyle was a tough one.
Yeah. I couldn't believe it when I was watching that play out. I was like, holy smokes, this guy doesn't care what the coach is saying at all. Anyway, Ryan, go ahead.
Yeah, he was a bit of a thorny individual, but it all came good, didn't it? We'll always have 2019. Yes, absolutely. We're chatting with our friend Akil Augustine of NBA TV Canada, and I was watching NBA Today earlier today, Akil, and Kendrick Perkins was on there, and he seems pretty convinced, Mr. Perkins does, that, they asked him what he thought, the 5 big moves of the offseason would be in the top 2. Number 2, he seems to feel that Fred, who has opted out of his deal, is going to go to Philly with Nick Nurse. Could you see that working out?
First off, not a huge Kendrick Perkins fan. He's started a lot of conversations, I think, that don't need to be had in this NBA. And I don't know that his reputation for prognosticating has proven to be better than 5%. But there are other pieces that have to fall before that's even a possibility. I think Daryl Morey and James Harden have an amazing relationship. I know a lot of people talk about, how somehow James ending up in Houston, but I think James is going to end up in Philly because he's got a long-standing relationship. He left money on the table, which means they've had long-term discussions about his future in Philadelphia because he left money on the table by opting out and giving them an opportunity to sign other guys for last season. So I'm not totally convinced, and I don't think you can have both James Harden and Fred VanVleet. But if they can, I'm not buying it personally. I'm not buying it. I've heard other teams' names. Orlando's been the number one since earlier in the year. We heard the Lakers want to work something out, but they don't have a lot of options cap-wise. It would have to be a pretty interesting sign and trade. The Philly one's a new one that I hadn't heard until Kendrick Perkins came out with that. Maybe he's got a line to someone in Philly that's feeding him this information, so maybe he's got grounds for saying it. But if I'm only hearing it from Kendrick Perkins, I'm just not buying.
Fair enough. And another one that he talked about and that I've heard some rumors about as well regarding Mr. Harden, what are the possibilities that your Lakers reach out to him? Was that something that crossed your mind? Is that even a fit, do you think?
I don't, simply because we've seen this act before. I hope Rob Pelinka's learned his lesson. Top-heavy teams aren't going to make it. We just watched the Denver Nuggets win a championship, but you talk about on a game-to-game basis, we had guys we had never heard of in this NBA step up and play big roles. A lot of average NBA fans aren't familiar with Braun or Brown and some of the guys that were making clutch cuts to the basket to make layups. You need a well-rounded roster. You can't go top-heavy. And the Lakers, at least 3 times in the last 20 years or so, have gone out and tried to build super teams that have failed. You talk about the Karl Malone, Gary Payton super team. We talk about the Steve Nash, Kobe Bryant, Dwight Howard super team, right? They've tried to do the Russell Westbrook, AD, LeBron James super team. And what we're learning is, full rosters make deep runs. The Miami Heat, an 8 seed, but they had guys like Gabe Vincent at the time, firing on all cylinders, and Max Strus. You need a deep roster. You need quality players, 1 through 5, then 6, 7, 8, 9. And cap-wise, the Lakers are very restricted in what they can do. So if they bring in a James Harden, which is the new rumor, who's rounding up that roster? What happens when you've got one guy who's super fragile in AD, and then an older LeBron James who's not going to be able to log kind of significant minutes that you need to do a late season push, and then older James Harden? Those guys are not going to be able to be on the floor for 40 minutes. So when they're not on the floor, who's playing? And how is that group going to be able to keep you in championship contention? So I don't believe in that at all.
I know this is off topic a little bit, but you mentioned his name a couple times now. And LeBron set the NBA record for scoring this season. Is he the best ever?
The best basketball player ever. So I have 2 categories. I go the best and the greatest. The greatest is Michael Jordan. The greatest is about story. And the story of Michael Jordan, the 6 for 6 in the finals, despite the fact that he had a bunch of years where he didn't make the finals, right? The 6 for 6 in the finals, the shot making, the ability to put the game on the international platform, the dream team, the reputation, the lore, the fact that he was kind of an enigma because it was before social media. So there was this vacuum of information about him where you didn't get exposed or overexposed to him. And so he became kind of a figure larger than life. So I think that's the greatness of Michael Jordan. And obviously revolutionizing the sneaker game. Those are all things. He's kind of the prototype. So definitely I think his greatness supersedes anyone's. But you talk about playing basketball, and I have to pick a player, I have to design a player. The template is LeBron James. He's going to be one of the greatest scorers, rebounders, passers, shot blockers. Like, what do you want? He's got it all.
That's a great answer. That's a great answer.
That's a very nuanced answer. That's why we have Akil on the program,
exactly.
Clarkey. This is why we don't turn to you for basketball insight.
And, there's no question about it.
Let me just say before we move quickly back to Raptors land, let me also just say this for Michael Jordan. Let's not forget the dunk from center court to sink the Monstars, where he helped Bugs. Like, that's an all-timer, man. He reached for that dunk.
Yeah,
okay?
you compare Space Jam 1 to Space Jam 2, and there's no competition. It falls off a cliff.
It's very bad. But Mike, he was the real deal with Bill Murray in on that Looney Tunes team.
Hey, speaking of Murray, tell me about Jamal Murray, Kitchener guy.
Oh, man.
Won a championship. What a story he is, eh?
Yeah, shouts out to Jamal and his dad. I know both of them. His dad did a great job raising his son. Honestly, those two had a great relationship. It was a passion that they shared. Jamal's a hard worker, Orangeville Prep alum, so I got to watch him a lot in high school. And listen, I didn't see it. I can honestly say it. I knew the kid. I didn't see it. I didn't. You think about not seeing it. I didn't see him getting to the heights that he got before the 2021 ACL injury. And then after the ACL, you kind of forgot about him. A guy like Shea Gilgeous-Alexander shows up and starts balling. Andrew Wiggins wins his NBA championship with the Golden State Warriors. And I think a lot of other players, the Donovan Mitchells of the world, there are a lot of young guards that sprouted up, and you were talking about other guys, John Morant, right? And we forgot that this kid from Kitchener has an extremely well-rounded game, extremely versatile, but more than that, he's a shot maker in clutch moments. Like, his clutch shooting was amazing this postseason. He showed up when needed. And I got to give props to Coach Mike Malone, of course, Nikola Jokic, because this is the guy that I actively campaigned against in the MVP race, and I'm 100% dead wrong for doing that. But no, it's an amazing story for Jamal Murray, another big moment for Canadian basketball. I just can only imagine the amount of kids he's going to inspire, because I think a lot of times we focus on Toronto and the GTA. And for a kid to come from Kitchener, right? Because there's a lot of like small town mentality. People feel like they're forgotten about. You're from Kitchener. Like, you think about all the other satellite spots in Toronto that feel like, oh, when a kid can come from here now. That's huge.
You know who else came from Kitchener?
You?
The heavyweight champion of the world at one time, Lennox Lewis.
Yeah, also
he came
Jamaica.
From Kitchener.
Also Jamaica.
England.
And Jamaica.
Yeah.
And Jamaica.
Grew up in Kitchener. There you go.
All right. Okay. You can have that one.
You digress, Clarkey. Incredible. Jamal Murray, I mean, coming back from that ACL injury where you wonder, boy, is this guy ever going to be the same? And he was emotional on the court afterward, and rightly so. It's awesome repping Canadian basketball in that fashion. And Nikola Jokic, obviously the first player ever to lead the playoffs in points, assists, rebounds.
Jeez.
It's absolutely insane that a chubby little kid from Serbia, we've all seen the photo of him when he's like 12 years old, little chubby lad, and he's dominating the NBA. And
is he staying for the parade?
Champions.
You said he was going to.
I think he's got a jet leaving right after the parade. He wants out of the United States of America, and I don't blame him. That
exactly.
Is not the country you want to be in right now.
No, I don't.
Absolutely, I completely understand. Before we let you go, Akil, back to the Raptors. We've talked a lot about rumors. Is this guy going here? Who's going here? If you're the general manager, put your GM hat on here. What's a move or two that you could realistically see the Raptors pursue this offseason? Because they had a very odd trade deadline by all accounts. They bring Pirtle back. People were convinced they'd sell. They did not do that. Now they might lose Fred when people were advocating for them to trade him. What are some realistic things that you could see happening in Raptorland this summer?
Listen, everyone's presuming Fred's gone. You go back to the end of the year, that Fred Pascal pick and roll was one of the most potent pick and rolls that we've had as Raptors fans, right? Like, it was effective, and it was probably the one piece of our offense, because it was an offense that really relied on stagnant one-on-one play. It was one piece of the offense that really allowed guys to get off without having to dribble the ball too much. So, I mean, my heart is set on Fred coming back. I honestly think that that's a great option for this team, especially since you've already committed to Jakob, and I think they're going to, continue to keep Jakob on the team and ink him to a longer deal eventually. I think listen, I don't know what's happening with Gary Trent. I think the market is going to dictate what happens with Gary Trent, like where his value is at, because it's not the craziest free agent pool. You look at this free agent pool, and I'm not sure that there are guys that you want to bet the farm on, right? Like, there's a Dylan Brooks out there. There's a Russell Westbrook out there. There's a Kristaps Porzingis out there, right? It's not, free agent years of past where we've had premier players available that are franchise changers. So I think this is going to be about internal growth. I'm not sure that Masai and Bobby have had this reputation of taking huge flyers outside of the Kawhi opportunity on free agents, right? And I think Toronto's really invested in building a culture of internal growth and internal development. So maybe there is a deal for more draft picks. Maybe that's the move. I think that would be the other outlandish one.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be an interesting summer for sure. Last one for you. What's more likely? Durant gets another ring or LeBron gets another ring?
Durant. I think
Really? You think so?
I think that Suns. Listen. No disrespect to the Nuggets, but they had the easiest walk to the finals, right? They played an 8 seed, a 6 seed, like maybe a 4 seed, and then they played an 8 seed in the finals. They never played any of the top 3 teams in either conference. And they played a Suns team that basically gutted itself to get an unhealthy Kevin Durant, who had a significant injury that season and hadn't had a camp under its belt, right? So if you're asking me, I think that the best team going into next year, sure, you got to give it to the reigning champion Nuggets, but I would be scared of a Suns team that's retooled sans Chris Paul, right? Which means they're going to free up some cash to get another guard in there. And they're going to have a fully healthy Kevin Durant and Devin Booker, more familiar with each other, with a training camp under their belt. So I think it's very likely that Kevin Durant gets another championship, but he won't get any more stripes in my book. I think he's a ring chaser.
And just as a Leaf fan, it's not that easy sometimes beating an 8 seed, just so you know.
You don't have to tell me about it. I was there. I was leading the fans in the square. It was heartbreaking.
Were you? Oh, man.
I think we all, when the Bruins lost, I think we all took a nice big breath, like, okay.
Yeah,
this
for sure.
It's going to happen.
Did you lead the We Want Florida chant down there in Maple Leaf Square? Was that you leading that?
No comment. No comment.
No comment, but he's offered us plenty of good ones tonight, and that's why we turn to him for basketball. Our buddy Akil Augustine of NBA Canada TV. We really appreciate this, buddy. Thanks so much for doing this, and hey, congrats on the young one. How about that, eh?
Thank you so much, guys.
All right, we'll take one last quick break. When Clarkey and I come back, we obviously got to talk a little bit about the Stanley Cup final, although nobody seems to be talking about it much. The ratings way, way down. Who's surprised up here? We'll talk about that next here on Instigating. Wrapping things up this week on Instigating with Clarkey and Drury, thanks to our friends Ian Doig of the Ian Doig Golf Academy and our friend Akil Augustine of NBA TV Canada for chatting RBC Canadian Open, upcoming US Open, the NBA offseason. Congrats, Denver. Clarkey, boy, lot going on in the sports world, the sports media world too. We'll touch on that, but of course, we haven't talked about it yet because, well, we don't really care, and I guess a lot of other people, on the viewing side of things in a traditional sense anyway, don't care. Lowest ratings since, I believe, at least in the Vegas market, since the 94 Cup final, and the lowest overall U.S. TV ratings of a Stanley Cup final in 27 years. Pretty wild stuff. And the game itself, game 5, the 9-3 smackdown that Vegas laid on the Florida Panthers, the lowest watched single game of a cup final since 2007 when the Ducks eliminated the Ottawa Senators in 5 games.
Ryan, the NHL gets what they deserve. They changed their rules. They changed the way the games are officiated in the playoffs. The skilled teams do not make the final, and they're left with a Florida team who. Well, I don't know. Listen. They had 10 days off. Was it?
Yeah, this was a weird. What are we doing here?
They made it to the final because of Bobrovsky. Stole the Leafs series, stole the Carolina series. He was unbelievable. Totally fair. He was unbelievable.
Matthew Tkachuk was too.
Yep.
Ran him on tour.
And that's what the NHL wanted. They wanted this team because they just let them, charge people and cross-check them and that's just what the NHL wanted. So they get everything they deserve by not having skilled teams in the. I'm not saying Vegas, but I'm just saying that.
The Vegas NHL's got very good team.
Like if I'm at the board of governors meeting, whenever it is, I'm going to ask the question: Are we gonna officiate this way forever? Because then we're gonna change our strategy and get rid of the skilled players. Because,
well, yes, the answer is yes. Win. They've always done this.
They haven't always done it, but nah, I don't know.
The old playoff rule book.
I know, but it's ridiculous that the playoff rule book, that there's a different rule book. It's ridiculous.
You're barking up the right tree, brother. I know. I agree.
I know. So anyway,
I'm still amazed we won.
The other thing, I know. No, you're right. But the other thing is, ESPN has the contract for the playoffs or for the NHL. And they have all the series, not all the series, but they have a lot of the series right up to the final. And then they're not on ESPN. They're on TNT. I don't get it. How can the network who broadcasts most of the games not get the finals?
Dude, I don't know how, the whole broadcasting
I don't know how that's
thing
structured.
works. And I don't care.
But
I was bored.
Crazy.
I was bored by the end of it.
Did you watch the games? Did you watch all the games?
Yeah, chunks of most of them. I'll be honest, Game 5 was the one I watched the least. I saw the score and was like, okay.
Right. Anyway.
Happy for a few people, though. Chiefly Chandler Stevenson, who, of course, helped my boys win in 2018, funnily enough, against Vegas. And George McPhee, of course. Good Guelph boy. Hopefully looking forward to seeing him again at Sleeman Center this year to catch a Storm game. And just a great guy. Helped build the Caps up. I'm thrilled for him that he won a Stanley Cup. Thrilled for George.
I have a funny story about George McPhee. So George was a assistant GM in Vancouver. That's right. I happened to be working a game at, how long ago was he assistant GM?
In Vancouver? We're talking mid-90s here out there with Pat
okay,
Flynn.
Good. Yes, this is exactly right. So there was a game at Maple Leaf Gardens. And I used to sit up with Jimmy Holmstrom, the organist, and I would help Jimmy, saying goal or whatever, like being his spotter during the games. And there was a play, I can't remember what it was, but Vancouver was playing the Leafs, and there was a play, and the NHL officials with Brian Lewis, our good buddy, sitting beside me in a locked door. At Maple Leaf Gardens, and George McPhee. I've never seen anyone so mad in my life at a hockey game than George McPhee this one particular day. And he was pounding and pounding and pounding on the official's door up in the press box that never opened. And that made him even more mad. But it was funny. I was like, oh my God, he's coming in here. He's going to come in here and get me.
George,
little intense.
Ornery guy, intense dude for sure. But I will say I've had the pleasure of meeting him twice. Extremely nice dude. Answered all my questions about, of course, I had to pick his brain about Ovi, and he was great. Super good guy. Thrilled for him. Obviously, I'm off the charts happy for that guy. Like the Caps.
Hold it. Speaking of off the charts.
Speaking of,
the torque in the 2.7 liter turbo trucks is off the charts.
Somebody might have told me that.
Yeah,
can't remember who.
Is. We have a demo sale going on at Larry Hudson's. It's a good time just to mention that. Up to $7,000 off demos. So if you're looking for a deal on the truck, now is the time. Come on in, and 0.99% financing too on these two 2.7 liter 4-cylinders. I drive one. I love it. Come see me if you don't have a sales rep. If you do, go see them. Ask for Clarkey when you get there, and I'll take care of you. But yeah, good sale right now on trucks. 3,000 kilometer demos. They're ready to go, and we are moving them fast. So if you want to get in on one, come and see me right now. Ryan, as I said, you would look good in a truck. And I have a red one, Caps Red. I call it Caps Red.
You call it. Oh,
and
good.
I can put an 8 on the back of it. You can drive it around.
Now you're talking. The interest
throw that
is
in.
peaking. My interest might be off the charts, like the torque in the truck. So how about that? Hudson's has it. Remember that. Larry Hudson, Chevrolet Buick GMC 1000. Wallace Avenue here in Listowel. Go see
519-291-3791. 291-3791 is our number.
Rock and roll. That's a salesman right there. Speaking of sales and off the charts, we got some off the charts bad news in the broadcasting industry this week. Obviously, Wednesday, June 14th, we're recording this, and earlier today, just 1,300 more broadcasting jobs slashed by Bell Media Corp. I always feel weird on these days. It's sad. They've shuttered more radio stations. TSN Edmonton is gone. TSN Ottawa is gone. Leafs lunch at TSN 1050 is gone. Our friend Julia Teixeira is okay. She's still obviously part of Al's brother, Mike DiStefano. My from what I've heard is safe as well. Obviously they took over hosting the show, which is no more. Julia still very involved with the TSN CHL panel and Bar Down, which is good. But man, a lot of good people lost their jobs today. Not just in the sports industry, but across the news spectrum. CTV, CKBJ, I believe it is, all news talk in London is gone, not, slash, it's gone. It's incredible, man. It's incredibly sad, Clarkey. I know you've been part of stuff like this. And I see a lot of people out there going, oh, this is what happens. And they're getting rid of all the people who are biased reporters and this, that, and the other. Like, I don't know what these people think we do in the broadcasting industry, but, I hear it too, the negativity. Oh, we're puppets for Trudeau or whatever political figure you want to insert here.
Yeah,
it's just not true. I'm certainly not seeing the kickbacks. It's not true. It offends me when I hear that. These are hardworking people who are trying to tell stories, and it's like the great Ricky Gervais said. It used to be my opinion is worth as much as your opinion, but now it's, well, my opinion is worth more than your fact. And there are a lot of people out there who are conspiracy theorist morons that think that the news is twisted or crooked somehow because it doesn't align specifically with what they think. The vaccine's dangerous, this, that, and the other. It's puke worthy. It makes me sick. These are hardworking people that are trying to bring you information.
It's
dying.
It's sick. It seems like every June, budget time and cuts are coming, and the people at the top are getting bonuses, and the people at the bottom are getting cut and losing their jobs. It's sickening. It's two companies in this country who are controlling sports radio, and one of them is hanging on by a thread. I imagine TSN in Toronto will continue with TSN 1050. The Fan, as much as I would say no one's listening, I don't have those facts, so I can't say it, but it's just, the product is deteriorating because they're pulling money out, and the people who people like to listen to aren't on the air anymore because they didn't want to pay them. And it's sick to watch and to see all these people lose their jobs. And Alan Davis was on our show a little while ago on the anniversary of the Fan and said, until a broadcasting company takes control of these radio stations, this will continue. He thinks there's a very viable option for sports radio in Canada, particularly Toronto. But until a broadcasting company who knows how to run a sports radio station and make money at a sports radio station and have good talent on a sports radio station, until that happens, they're going to continue to go down, 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 down. And the other thing too, Ryan, is I'm sick and tired, and I know some people might not like this, but this Bell Let's Talk shit, they don't have any problem ruining people's lives and firing people today. They have no problem doing that whatsoever, do they? Right? You think that has some sort of mental anguish on people? Of course it does. Of course it does. But now, back whenever they do Bell Let's Talk, it just makes me sick. It really makes me sick. A company who ruins people's lives and gives them much mental anguish then does something like that. It just drives me crazy.
Clarkey, you're, I would say in the majority of people, sharing that opinion, myself included. I mean, it's disheartening, because for people, I'm 10 years in now, which feels crazy to say. I'm a young guy, in my very early 30s here. And I'm 10 years in, I feel awful for the people coming, going
through school. Me. What if they're going through school for broadcasting? What happens? I don't know.
It makes you wonder, where's my future? Where are the opportunities going to be? Because
Yeah, they're going to be south of the border.
These two companies, and the government plays a role in this too, and those gutless cowards at the CRTC that have allowed this monopoly or oligopoly, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
They are strangling the broadcasting industry to death in this country, and it's sad.
Mm-hmm.
It is
100% sad.
And it's
I'm
fair.
fortunate, Ryan, that I left on my terms. Yes, I got laid off. I got laid off at MLSE. Yes, but then I reinvented at Sportsnet, but hated it. Then, of course, went to CKNX, and I enjoyed my time there. There's no question about it. But I left because of COVID. And I was in sales for the radio station at that time, as you know. And when COVID hit and all the stores closed, there was nothing to sell. And, luckily,
it's a tough time.
Tough time. The great Hudson family at Larry Hudson's offered me a job, and I'm not looking back one thing. I've enjoyed working at Larry Hudson's so much. It's absolutely incredible how, like, if you told me 10 years ago I'd be selling cars and trucks, I'd be like, oh, okay, but
they're great.
I'm loving it.
I
love it.
Man.
Like, there's other things to do in life, right?
We love them.
Broadcasting.
That's the thing. You can't make your job your whole identity, right?
Yeah.
That's a path to, to dark stuff. And we wish everybody well, obviously. But, I'm glad you brought up the pandemic, because as a final note here, many Canadians will remember that the government and the CRTC made sure to give Bell and Rogers all these handouts and financial help.
And Bell
millions of dollars.
Bell is blaming them now.
And now Bell, it's just sad, because I saw one tweet, and there's been a lot of information out there shared by good journalists today, that Bell's quarterly profits are up 12% from last year, which begs the question, why are these people losing their jobs? I can understand people losing their jobs. People are tweeting, oh, I don't feel bad. This is the real world. Welcome to real life. This happens all the time. Yeah, you feel that way because it's not you.
Right. And CEOs, because CEOs get bonuses for reducing the budget. And the best way to reduce budget is to fire people. So that's why
100%.
So the rich get richer.
And that's not the way that this industry, or most industries, that whether you like it or agree with everybody in the broadcasting world or not, serve you. Mm-hmm. They serve you. That's not how this should be done. And I just want to end on this. For everybody out there, and this goes for sports radio, traditional news broadcasting, whatever. If everybody just thought the same way, it'd be pretty boring. The most interesting conversations I've ever had, which include many on this show, it's called Instigating for a reason, are when we disagree and we hash things out. It's interesting to talk to people with a different perspective. And there is this weird psycho-conservative thing happening online where people are going, this is propaganda and blah, 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 and this isn't right, because they don't agree with facts that make them uncomfortable about their existence. I would say to those people, open your mind a little bit and have conversations with people that think differently than you. That's how you learn. That's how you expand your horizons and become a better and, frankly, more interesting person. And that's what journalists at the end of the day, and specifically on this show, sports, we're trying to have fun. We're trying to spark debate. When I listen to people on the radio and in sports, and they have a wild take that I don't agree with, that's my favorite, because they're sparking a debate within me going, no, I completely disagree with that. And here's why. It's good
I was thrilled
to have debate.
I was thrilled when you said I was nuts for picking 4 Canadians in the pool last week. That was awesome. Especially when I replayed it on my Facebook page. Hey, you know what? This world's going crazy, man. The world at times is going crazy. They're about to probably maybe reelect the president who might be in jail down there. So who knows?
It's wild times. We
gotta go.
The journalists are not out to get you.
It's time to go.
Okay, it's time.
Producer Adam, we got it.
It's time to go. We appreciate our friends Ian Doig and Akil Augustine for joining us this week. You can watch this show Friday nights at 8. Sunday nights at 9 with our friends on Whiteman TV. That's channel 6 for Whiteman subscribers. We debut on our YouTube channel Friday nights at 9 p.m. You can follow us and all our outlandish takes at Instigating Pod. Thanks to our sponsors, Larry Hudson, Chevrolet Buick GMC here in Listowel and the Listowel Squash Courts. I'm Ryan Drury. That's Clarkey. We'll be back next week with more Instigating.